it's your girl, Charlotte Van Horn, Black Expats in Panama. And I'm just so happy to be back here with another Black Expat Journey podcast. And you know what? I'm trying to get better at this. So if you're watching this video and you haven't watched before, please remember to like and subscribe if you're seeing this on YouTube. Okay, so I'm trying to get better about doing that because really I just be so excited to bring you the information and guests that I forget all of those amazing things that I should be doing to grow my channel and whatnot and what have you. But anyway, y'all know that we have launched our second Cultural Relocation Tour in Medellín, and the first tour will take place in August. We have handpicked some professionals, just like we have here in Panama, to serve the Medellín Cultural Relocation Tour. And you've met the doctor, the lawyer, the insurance broker. Guess what? Today you get to meet the realtor. So I have Juan Camilo with me today, and I just want him to introduce himself and tell us about, what you do in Medellín. So welcome, Juan.
Thank you so much for having me here and taking the time to meet me. Your last visit, I was so happy and more than happy to make this real today. So yeah, I'm Juan Camilo Villegas. I'm a real estate agent here in Medellin. I have been an agent the last 10 years. And guess what? I have started in Panama for 2 years first.
ECC.
So I know some about the market in Panama as well, and here in Medellin, where I was born and raised.
That's perfect. And when you were in Panama, you got to work with expats here too, right?
Yes, I was working for an American agency in Panama. And there I learned how expats specifically from the US buy in Latin America. So I kind of understand what are the most important concerns and how to avoid surprises and obviously not only translate the language, is translating the culture. Making business or real estate business in Colombia is way different from other countries. So it's what I am specialized now.
Yes, and you bring up the culture, which is so important. I feel like when we as people from North America go to other places, we have to understand that things are done different in every place, right? But at the same time, I appreciate when we can work with professionals who have worked with us and kind of have some experience about some of the things that we expect to happen. Because then, even though you don't have to bend over backwards, to change anything that you're doing, it's just that you understand the culture of the person or the people that you're working with. It's very important.
Yeah, that's totally right. And it's trying to accept how things are done and be prepared and how you can avoid things that you might don't like. And yeah, it's a process basically. You need to be adapted.
When we first bought our home here in Panama, and of course this was way before Black expats in Panama existed. When we closed that day and got the keys and came to the house, there were no light fixtures. And it was just, to me, it was the perfect example of you don't know until you know that things are different. So you come and you have this expectation just based on what you know, and then come to find out it was not irregular at all for homes built in Panama to not come with light fixtures and everything. Whereas in the United States, if you don't talk about upgrades, you're going to get standards. You're going to get a standard. If the house comes with appliances, you're going to get standard appliances. You're going to get standard faucets, light fixtures, and everything. But if you want to upgrade, then you could do that. So when the conversation never really came up, and back then I knew even less Spanish than I know now, right? And when the conversation never came up about upgrades, I just figured, okay, it just comes standard. Then I got my surprise. So that was like the first cultural lesson.
Yes, and I have found many of those with clients. So I learned so much about the difference from their experience and my own experience. And I will be happy to share with you all of this information.
Sure. And just, I mean, what types of things, like what kind of things do you think that North Americans can be um, um, better prepared for that they might not expect? Can you think of any example off the top of your head?
Yeah, yeah, of course. And there are two things that, first of all, two things that you might have to keep in mind that in this market, this real estate market in Medellin specifically, or Colombia basically, is very informal. It's like the Wild West because there is no license required to be a real estate agent. So anyone could be a real estate agent. Anyone. And when I'm telling you anyone, it could be a waiter in a restaurant, it could be a taxi driver, it could be your lawyer, it could be an engineer, it could be a therapist, whoever knows that there is a property for sale and introduce a buyer can make the 3% commission from the seller, right? In this case. So as soon as you get into a taxi and you speak English, or you speak Spanish, or your taxi driver speaks English, and you tell them that you're thinking to buy a property, they might know exactly what you want. And they want to sell you whatever they have to offer. And they don't usually care so much about the needs and expectations. So that's the first thing that you have to take care of, because there is not much people who knows much about the market. Then, as we don't have an MLS, and we don't have a record, or we don't have the MLS in the way you have it in the United States, there is no record of the property or about the market. So a property is so hard to know how much the seller paid for it in the past. And there is no way to know how long the property has been in the market, because in this market, every property is for sale and non-property could be for sale at the same time. So just as an experience, you can see a property, start negotiation, going back and forward, making an offer, receiving a counter offer. And when it's time to come to the notary to sign the contract and make the down payment, a few hours before, the seller can say, you know what, I'm not selling the property now.
Wow.
And
That's very important.
Yeah, so it could happen. It haven't happened to me yet, but it could happen, and we have to be prepared for that too. So yeah, that it's a possibility here, and there is not, as long as we don't have any agreement signed and there is no money down, anything could be changed. Okay, so we have to go very carefully. We need to have a lawyer. We need to make a due diligence. I usually make an interview with the seller, trying to see how motivated and how decided is to sell the property, right? And when we know that, we can move forward, we can sign the contract. After signing the contract, we are in stone, there is no risk, we are fine. Everything could happen before making the first payment, right? So that's a big difference. There's a huge difference. Another fun things is in this market, for instance, the sellers are the ones who shows the property. Not even sometimes they don't allow us as an agent to show the property to the buyer, and they will be in the visit all the time talking to you. They want to know who you are, and you have to be kind, right? You have to be kind. You have to, it doesn't matter if they speak English or not, they will try to make themselves understand. And that's because our culture is very close, very warm, and they want to know who are you dealing with? Who are they dealing with, right? So it's very important for us to know that. So do not be surprised if you are in the middle of a showing and the sellers is there and they want to talk to you and they want to meet you in personally speaking.
That would be a surprise. You know, in the United States, as a seller, I've been on both sides several times. You know, they say, you know, get your house stage ready, turn on all the lights, put WD-40 on any doors that squeak. We are specifically instructed most time to take down as much very personal items as you can so that when the buyer comes in, they don't have to continually psychologically look over you to imagine themselves there. So we get very specific information. It is very uncomfortable to go through a home with the seller present. In my opinion, it really is, because you can't really be genuine about your feedback. You feel more restricted about looking in closets, or you know what I mean? You just feel like you don't want to invade their personal space. You don't want to insult them, which, you know, North Americans don't tend to be the most warm and fuzzy people. However, I mean, I think that we can be polite and we don't want to hurt people's feelings. That's very uncomfortable for me. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, so it's the way we work here. So just to be prepared that it will be very, very likely you will find a seller during the visit, and a very active seller in during the visit, like answering the questions, trying to show what they like the property so much, why they purchased the property at the very beginning, how the neighbors are, everything. They want to tell you everything. So yeah, it's the matter to be prepared, and obviously I make this warning before and after the visit. You can tell me any comment about the property, and if it's required a second visit, we can always come back.
I love that you said that. So talk to me about, or however, comma, I will say this. You know, once I learned that you did not have to be a licensed realtor to sell properties in Colombia, that was very important for me to know. Okay, because I am just accustomed to people having to have a license. You know, here in Panama, you have to have a license. So, of course, the next best thing is the people who have established a business, who are like engaging in the professional organizations and are creating alliances within the real estate community, and maybe with banks and lawyers and people who are part of that process. So in addition to you coming, highly recommended, us having a meeting, because I have to meet everybody before I put anybody in front of my people. You know, the fact that you are in associations, you know, more professional associations, that you have your own business, definitely weighed heavily for me. And so I appreciate you doing that. Explain to us your MLS and how it works for professionals. What information can you get from MLS?
Okay, so here in Medellin, anyone could be a real estate agent. As I told you before, you just need to print some cards if you want, create a website and start to promote your services, but you don't need, you are not regulated by anyone. So there is an association of more formal agents, appraisers, and building managers, or gated community managers, which is called in Spanish La Lonja, LALONGIA. So La Lonja, it's an association of real estate agents where we paid every month, and we have meetings, we have lectures, we have what we call a business meeting every week, where we go and share listings and buyers request. So we get connected and we know each other inventory. And we keep updated, and this association represent us against the government if something is happening in the real estate market or whatever, or if there is, let's say, a bridge that's going to be built. So we have one person who is representing us and knowing exactly what is happening, and they bring us all this information. So everyone who belongs to the association, it's a real estate agent who's been updated, not only in terms of prices and the market, but what is happening with the city itself, right? Inside of this association, there is a group that we call the MLS, and we have a platform, and we have an agreement among of us. And the agreement is basically the same as it is in the United States by law. We have the MLS, and only one can have the property in that database, one of us. So this is voluntary. We just decided to be part of this, and we are 90 agencies, more than 500 agents, and only one of us represent the property in that database, and we are trying to build some record of it. So we have access to all the inventory. So right now I can have access for more than 6,000 properties in between residential and commercials, and have somehow a record, and we can have comparables, and we only deal with one agent. So this is all by written. Every seller that wants to advertise the property in the community, they have to sign a contract. So we have a very formal relationship with the seller, avoiding all of the surprises that I point out at the very beginning of this interview. So that reduces the risk so much. And it makes very comfortable the negotiation, because we are two professional real estate agents, and there is one representing the seller, the other one representing the buyer. So it's more, you're going to feel more like you are in the United States, right? Even though this is voluntary. So there could be properties that are out of the list, so we can have access to it too. But at least at the very beginning, we are looking for properties. And I can tell you, okay, right now we are looking for properties for you, and nothing in the MLS looks like it's for you as a buyer. So I'm gonna go out of the MLS. Okay, so this is the risk. We're gonna do this. I'm gonna work with these sellers this way. If something happens, if there is a red flag in the middle of the visit, no matter if it's in the middle of the visit, the very first appointment, in the negotiation, or if I see something wrong in the papers, so I will raise my hand with the red flag and say, look, maybe this is not the property for you. There are ways to manage all of that.
Excellent, excellent. So I think that in doing so, you're a little bit more protected, because first of all, you said only one person could list that property. Now, where else do people? Well, let me finish my thought on that. I get sidetracked, but what I want to say is that I think it makes me feel more secure that the first place of contact is you, and you have access to an MLS, which you know that the people that are represented there are more serious about what they're doing. You know that it's the property. If you see something, it's only going to be listed once. More than likely you have some relationship or know of the seller's agent, that you can all, work together within the MLS system. That's a big thing. Let me ask you this. Besides MLS, which the professional group has access to that, not the public, where does the public find listings otherwise?
Okay, there are many others websites that the agents or whoever wants to sell properties can advertise, like fincarraiz.com, mercadolibre.com. It's like in Panama, you might be more familiar with encuentra24.com. This is type of websites. You have to be careful, because you can use them for sure. There might be very real properties for sale, but there are, I would say, I don't have specific statistics, but I would be afraid to say like 60% of the listings advertised on those websites are dated, right? Because there are agencies that do not take them off just to get some leads out of these listings. So the prices are dated. And one property can be listed on those websites for many sellers or many agents. So you will see properties with the same pictures for different prices, even different sizes. So you don't know if one agent wants to advertise the property for less price just to get more leads, or if it's dated, or the seller just updated the price and there is one agent who just kept the last price. So it's kind of a mess. So you have to take care. And sometimes even the seller do not know that there is an agent advertising the property.
That's it. That is, and I'm glad that I asked that question because that is very common in Panama. And when people come, I say, even though Panama, you have to be a licensed realtor, you should be a licensed realtor. And I'll just say this, if there are people in Panama and you're going out with agents, you need to check their credentials. You need to make sure that they're really an agent. And then the other thing is that properties can be listed multiple times. Doesn't have to necessarily mean that the person that's listing the property has any relationship whatsoever with the buyer. I'm sorry, with the seller. And then also what is common is that you'll find the property and it's listed at a really good price. Then when you call and it's like, oh, that one went up or that one is no longer available. However, we have this if you would like to see it. And it's sort of almost like a bait and switch. So we want to avoid those kind of things as much as possible. I know that even in Medellín, Colombia, even with regard to your residency and things like that, you don't necessarily have to have an attorney. However, I always suggest that whenever we're doing anything in an international space, that we have professionals to assist us. So once you have a contract, so the contract is submitted by an attorney, or is this contract submitted directly? At what point does the contract get reviewed by legal counsel? Is that required, and how does that work?
Okay, so yeah, you're right. In Latin America in general, specifically in Colombia, we don't use lawyers until we are in trouble, right? So when there are two Colombians buying a property, they don't get lawyers involved unless there is a mortgage. That's it. But when you are a foreigner buying in Colombia, I always recommend to have a lawyer because there are many things involved and you want to be safe, right? So first of all, let me clarify something here. So yeah, you're right. The expats or foreigners have the same rights as locals to buy real estate in Colombia. There is no restriction at all. So you can buy with your passport. You don't need to have residency. You don't need to get residency after the purchase. You can just buy with your passport, no problem, right? Even though if you want to bring the money into the country, there is a process there, right? And there is a lawyer that you might want to help you bring in the property, the money into the country. My very first, I have two advices for you as an expat buying in Colombia. First of all, if you're planning to buy to live, rent first. And listen, I'm not a rental agent. I'm a sales agent, and I'm telling you this. No matter if it delays my commission, I don't care. First, you rent first. You wanna rent first for 2 months, 3 months. Those are my best clients, buyers, successful buyers are those who has been rented first for a couple of months, different places. And the second is bring the money first and negotiate in dollars. Do not transfer the money directly to the sellers from the United States, okay? So first of all, you need to open an investment account here in Colombia. You bring the money from the States in your name into Colombia. And then we go and hit the streets and start the house hunting. Look at the properties. When you find the property you like, you make an offer. We make a due diligence with the lawyer. We check all the paperwork. We make the negotiation. And when the lawyer tells us the property is okay and draft the contract, is when you sign the contract and make the down payment. That goes directly to the seller. There is no escrow or anything like that. Okay. I could try to work with an escrow with no extra cost, but it doesn't mean that the seller, which is not accustomed to this, will accept it. Okay. But I can try, we can work that out. During the negotiation, there is an escrow service here, but it's not mandatory and is not customary yet, right?
So it goes directly to the seller. Your earnest deposit.
Usually, yeah, the very first deposit goes directly to the seller. And the next question is, how does the buyer get protected? Okay, we have a private contract which has a penalty clause. Okay. So the seller will refund the down payment plus a penalty, right? If something happens with the contract. But Colombians are very serious when we get into a contract, a purchase contract, okay, or an agreement. So in more than a couple of hundreds deals that I have done lately, I have zero problems with the contract. Okay, because we are very clear, we are ready to sell, and we have a lawyer involved. And the culture here is when you sign the contract, you just go through it, right? So that's and that is the penalty clause. So then we agreed a time frame. It could be maybe 3 weeks to probably 2 months. And we go to the deed signing, and when you sign the deed, you make the full payment, the 100 of the rest of the balance of the deal, and you receive the key of the property, and you're ready to move in.
So the first deposit that you make, the earnest deposit, like approximately how much is that usually? What's a typical earnest deposit?
Let's say that in general terms is between 10 to 30%.
Okay.
More or less.
All right.
But if the property has a mortgage, that very first deposit has to be the balance of the mortgage, right? In order to get the property ready to be transferred. Because the bank wants to receive the money to cut or print a letter that allows the notary to transfer the possession of the property to a third person, right? So that's why sometimes we need a lawyer to make a very serious contract. And when this mortgage balance is more than 50%, we ask for possession of the property at the very moment that we sign the agreement. Okay. So this is all drafting and general terms. Every negotiation have different points.
CCC.
We can go back and forward, but this is in general what I usually do, to keep the buyer safe and make possible the deal go through.
So let me understand. Let me make sure I understand. So you said something about bringing, negotiating in US dollars, right? Is that what you said?
No, I said
you said something about having the money like transferred to your Colombian bank account first. Is that right?
Not exactly. My recommendation is negotiate the property in Colombian pesos.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
It's not. I think it doesn't play in your benefit if you play negotiating dollars, right?
Yeah.
So I usually recommend to negotiate the property in pesos and pay for it in pesos in Colombia. You can pay in dollars in the United States if the seller has an account there, but it will be tricky, right? And it finally will need a lawyer involved because you need to declare the investment in Colombia, no matter if you paid in the US, so it could be a little bit more complicated. There are ways to do it. I usually go for by the book, but you can go off the book too. It's
No,
up to you.
I'm trying to stay on the book. I just wanted to make sure that I understood that right. But it is best to be prepared
Yeah.
to make that payment when you come, as opposed to having to do all of that transferring and converting after you've found the place.
Yeah. So the very first step is opening a brokerage account. There is no bank that can open an account to you with the passport. I know social media, Facebook group is full of information that you could open a bank account with the passport. Believe me, I have met several expats. I have met people who has gone with their passport under their shoulder, going all bank by bank, branch by branch. No one will open the with the passport. No one. That is not possible because, and that is the reason why, actually, they want to know who are you first because you have no credit record in Colombia. If I put your social security number in Colombian databases, nothing's gonna appear. And Colombia need to be very careful with the money laundering. So you have to be introduced properly into the Colombian financial system first. And the ones who are doing that role are the brokers, the stock market brokers, right? No matter if you are not investing in stocks, we know that, but this is the guys who are in charge to bring the money, to bring the dollars out of the country into the financial system. So I can put you in contact with a couple of them. So they will make a due diligence of your background and they want to know exactly what you are doing and what are your source of income or where is your money coming from. And they will ask questions, right? And they will ask for paperwork. Yeah, annoying. Yeah, that's right. They want to know every single penny you earn, how's made, right? Mm-hmm. So you gotta submit a lot of very sensitive and personal information to them, and these guys will review everything, and they will say, "Okay, you're good. You are a very good actor of the economy. Welcome to the financial system," and they open an account here. That doesn't cost anything. And you don't have to put money right away. You can leave the account open for 6 months and then do all the process. When you have that account open, you can transfer, you will transfer your dollars from your personal account to an intermediary bank account in New York, okay? And send an email or just go online and say, look, I have deposited X amount of dollars in your account in New York. I want to convert it in pesos. You have 10 days to give that instruction and you start to negotiate the rate. And here is a very good news. You're going to have control of the rate too. So you can decide if you want to wait one more day or a couple of days until the price goes up, or if you go that the price is going down, you can convert it right away.
Wow. So I just really learned something else very important because I really never understood what that term intermediary meant. But now the way that you explain it, I get it. Okay, very good information, Juan. I appreciate that. So you just don't go thinking you're gonna just do anything, people. Okay, you gotta have guidance, and you have to be ready for the unexpected, and that's why we have Juan to help you navigate through all of those. Let me switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about what areas come to mind when you think about the most popular ones as far as expats? What in the Medellín area, what are some of the favorite areas?
Okay, so let's go in order from the most popular areas. Before telling you something about that, it's good to understand that Medellín is a 4 million people population. And this is actually, Medellín is not one single city. It's actually 8 cities attached, okay? With different mayors, different budget, same policies. Colombia is very centralized. So this is good to understand first. So when you go to, yeah.
So to help me understand, and maybe some of our listeners, because our tour guide said that too. So basically, for us, Medellin is like a state. Medellin is like a state in the United States, and then within that state, there are towns and cities. Is that correct?
No, No,
No?
that is not that way. Medellin is one city, which is the most important in the whole valley, right?
Okay.
We're in the valley, and Medellin is the biggest and the most important, and is one in the middle. But attached to it, the city has been started to grow, and then it goes with Envigado, which is another city, but is attached. So
Okay.
from the sky, you will see one concrete body, but in reality, it's 8 cities. Okay,
Okay.
Medellin is one and the most important, right?
So, like, maybe I misunderstood. So, like New York City, like
Yeah,
New York City is a large city with several boroughs. So, is that kind of what, like, that's kind of like that, right?
yeah. Let's say that I don't know much about New York City, but let's say that it has, or Miami. Miami-Dade is one state, and then it has Hialeah, which is another city. Next to it is not a neighborhood, it's a city with its own major budget and some policies, but they are all attached, right?
That's how New York City is.
Okay,
That's how
same
New York
thing.
City. But they
Or
basically call them boroughs.
or
So,
as you are in Panama and San Miguelito. San Miguelito, it's another city, but they are
mhm.
attached, and you're not taking a road. It's just in a straight and a corner. You have one building in Panama and the other building in front in San
See,
Miguelito, but
So it's more than just the city.
yeah, so it's more than just the city.
We
There are
got
many
that.
cities. So if you go online, first of all, you will find Poblado in top of it. But Poblado is one of the biggest neighborhoods in Medellin. So it has all kind of lifestyles. So if you want to be close to the expat community and the action and all the touristic district, that's Provenza, Patio Bonito, and it's in a small area. But you can be in Poblado and also being in a very residential part of it, right? Then we have
Let me
Poblado is basically
Poblado. For that's the other thing with us. We work in phonetics because we're not familiar with Spanish words. So it's Poblado, right? Poblado.
right,
Got you.
Poblado. That
Poblado.
is that is a very high-end neighborhood. Is
Mhm.
basically gated community. 80% of the population in Colombia lives in gated communities and apartments, right? That's another big difference. We don't live so much in houses here. Our houses, as you might be familiar in Florida, in Arizona, is very different. We lived in apartments, condos, buildings, gated community, and those community has some amenities like pool, gym, and a social room or party room, and a space that you can rent for meetings and stuff like that. And some others has more amenities like cinema, squash court, like clubs, right? So it's the way we live here, and that's mainly Poblado, right? Then we have Laureles.
Mhm.
Laureles is in the west of the city. It is still Medellin and is flatter. So it's more known because it's flat, almost all of it. And there you can live in independent building. What we call an independent building is just a building with 1 or 2 apartments per floor maximum. And it's hardly to find one with 24-hour security. There are some, and the amenities are low. So maybe there is a few with a pool, with a gym, but it's not a rule in Laureles, right?
Laureles is beautiful. Can you spell Laureles for us, please?
It's Laureles, Laurel. Sorry, Laureles, Laureles.
Laureles. And you just said something else interesting. Of course, I went through Laureles, but I didn't realize that it's more flat.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
is
very important. I guess we didn't, I didn't walk around as much because hilly is very important. And I said, being in Medellin, it's like you guys either have really good knees or really bad knees because everything just seems to be like on a hill.
yeah. We are known as the Golden Bowl because we are in a valley surrounded by mountains. So there is a flat area on the bottom, and then you have the hills all around the city. So that's why we have hills. And if you don't want to drive, which A very high percentage of the expats living in Medellin do not drive because the traffic here is a little bit different as well. So then you want to be walkable, you want to be able to go walking or close to public transportation access, which Laureles right now has that lack because is not, there are just starting to build the line of the metro in Laureles. So it will take probably another 3-4 years to have metro access from Laureles. So it's flat, that is public transportation, but it's basically buses and taxis. And the metro line is going to be open in about 3-4 years, more or less.
So
okay,
it'd be a good time to invest.
Yeah, it's a very good time to invest. They have already started the works. They have purchased the land and they have all the plan and they are just started the works. So it's the time to buy Laureles actually.
Those are the top two that you wanted to talk about. Any other areas?
Those are the most popular right now, and there are some upcoming areas that I have found in the last years, in the latest years. That is Envigado. Envigado is the #1 quality life in Colombia. Actually, it's the #1 city in quality life in Colombia, and it's becoming very touristic because there is a part of it which is flat. The quality of life, as I told you before, is very high and very safe. It's right next to Poblado in the south of the valley. The prices are still very reasonable. And you can find one of every kind of property you want. If you want to be flat, if you want, it has its own little Laureles, it has its own little Poblado, it has its own little Provenza with all of the mess that Provenza means. It's still very familiar, very residential, and it's been very interesting for most of the foreigners. And there is another town called Sabaneta, which is in the south. It's a little bit more further south, and it has the look and feel as a little town in the middle of the city. So it's funny because it's a town still. So at the point that you can be walking on the main square and see a guy riding a horse right next to you. Yeah, so it's very funny, and it's growing a lot, and it's still in the middle of the metropolitan area. And there are other neighborhoods in Medellin, like Belén. All of these are very, very Colombian lifestyle. So that's why I like to have an interview first. What would you like to find? If you want to be more into the expat community, if you want to be more into the local community, if you want to be like the first foreigner in the community. So I will allow you to know, like, man, if you want to be here, forget about a restaurant with a menu in English, okay? So it will depend on what is your Spanish too.
See, that's pretty awesome. And and it's good information to know. And I think, and I don't know if you want to talk about or how much you want to get into stratas. Is it called stratas?
Yeah, that is called in Spanish is estratos,
Estratos.
which is the way the Colombian government tried to give balance in between different type of income people, right? So we have strato 1. The #1 is the lowest quality life. Okay, so it means that you may not have paved roads or sidewalks or school, fresh water, and it's a very low class. And then strato 6, which is the higher, where it's supposed you to find better sidewalks, better street, fresh water, drains, schools, hospital, and everything. So it means that if you are in strato 6, you have a higher quality life. So you pay more taxes, you pay more utilities bill, and you are safer and more comfortable. It's a way we divided the city to help people who has no income. So the strato 6, when they pay the utilities bill, a percentage of that bill goes to pay the strato 1, right? So
Okay.
it's like a help, not a small help, because in Medellin specifically, the utilities company, and water, gas, and electricity is one company, and it's public, and is one of the biggest companies in Latin America. So as it's public, they try to find a balance in between the society.
So the electricity sources in Medellin, is it hydro, right?
Yes, it's basically hydro based.
Okay. And when it comes to talk about, so of course there's everything between 1 and 6. You know, there are different neighborhoods, and as we're going through the communities, first of all, when we do our real estate days, you'll be on the bus with us, and so you'll be able to explain all these things as we're going through. But I have been told by other expats that are living there that you want to ask about hot water. Is it common for certain places not to include hot water?
That's a funny question because yeah, I mean, we have had water in all of the in most of the properties in between strato 3 to 6, right? I mean,
Okay.
4 to 6, all of them has the hot water. The big concern that I have found with the foreigners is that we just need hot water basically in the shower, maybe in the kitchen,
Yes.
okay?
Uh-huh.
And we don't need hot water in every bathroom at the same time. So the system here, usually it has a water heater that might work for one shower at a time, right? So if two people are taking the shower in two bathrooms at the same time, one of those will have cold water for sure. Okay. So when an American buys an apartment here, they make sure that they have a bigger water heater, or we are more accustomed to the tankless water heaters, and those allow you to have unlimited hot water in one shower. If you have water heater, you have limited amount of water in any shower you open, right?
And this is not, you're not going to find this any more or less in the stratos. Like, is it you're going to be less? So you were saying between 3 and 6, I think. You were saying about the more likely to have that issue, or is it just across the board?
No, it will depend on the owner of the property. You can put hot water in any property you want. There is no restrictions, I'm talking about legal, infrastructural, or economic restriction. Is just not matter of the owner. If they want to install hot water, I have known apartments that have several water heaters, so they can have hot water in every room. It's just a matter of adjust to your needs, but there is no restriction. That is possible to find. Actually, Medellin sometimes a little bit cold, fresh. So you might want to have hot water, and it's very common to find it in almost every home. I have been in properties in Strato 2 with hot water, with no problem.
That's cool. Okay, so that's something else new to learn. Let me ask you about the rental market. What can you tell us about the rental market? I mean, I know it all depends on where you want to live, how you want to live, but just any like neutral ideas that you could give us about rental amounts and minimums, maximums, things like that.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because that's a very different market for rentals. And that's why you will find on social media some of our audience today have been go through the rental market, have had a tough time because in Colombia, the rentals are insured. Okay. It means that when a Colombian is looking for a rental in long term, it's like asking for a loan in a bank. So they check your credit record, they check your income, they have some policies, and the landlord buys an insurance. And this is the insurance company will cover if the tenant doesn't pay the rent. Okay, and they will cover all the damage if the tenants runs away and destroy the place, right? So in Colombia, it's very common that every landlord wants to buy the insurance and make sure that the tenant has the income to pay the rent and it's a good person, right? So it means that if you are an expat, if you are a foreigner and you have no credit record in Colombia, there is no insurance company that wants to sell the insurance to the landlord. So the landlord do not want to rent the apartment to a foreigner. That's why, because there is no insurance. It means that you have to go through the process. I have rented several properties to foreigners. There is a way to go through this to get the insurance. Basically is putting a deposit. And deposit is not just 1 month or 2 months. The deposit is probably 10 or between 4 to 10 months of rent. The good news, and do not get that scared, is the deposit goes in a CD in a bank on the tenant's name, right? It's not on the sellers, it's not on the landlord, it's in the tenant's name. And the tenants will put that deposit as secure, as a background of the contract. Okay, if something happens with the contract, so the insurance company can go against the CD in the bank. Okay, when the contract finished, the CD goes back to the tenant with all the interest and all the money. Okay, so that's the way it usually works for foreigners. The other way is going through the Airbnb or these platforms and going monthly, and there is a credit card as a guarantee of the contract too. But that's how the market work here.
So the landlords, they don't have to go through the insurance. They can make a case-by-case decision on who to rent to, right?
Yeah, they can go
They can.
that way, and in any case there is an insurance involved, we can find a way to make this happen.
Okay, and a U.S. credit report or no documentation that you can bring from the U.S. will suffice. You have to start establishing your credit in Colombia.
Yeah, that's totally right.
It's easier to rent here in Panama based on what I know. I've never rented an apartment here in Panama, but I have leased a corporate space, and it was very easy to rent here in Panama. They will sometimes ask for your U.S. credit report. Same with banks, but one of the best things to do if you're really considering being in the country is to start establishing credit for yourself. So, like, being able to, get that bank account, being able to secure an apartment is a great way to establish credit. Because once you secure an apartment, is it popular for the apartments to come furnished or unfurnished?
The furnished rental apartment is growing right now. There is a bunch of them. They are basically advertised in Airbnb. If you want to find some, they are basically all of them in Airbnb. Mm-hmm. It's a market that is growing. The furnished apartments for sale is almost none yet. I had a couple of listings or another couple of closings that are advertised and closed, furnished, but it's not as big as I know that could be in the US or in Panama. Here is just starting to become a market. Okay. But basically the rentals furnished has been found, or should be found on Airbnb, Booking, and those websites.
So when you think of these neighborhoods, in terms, just a few that you mentioned, in terms of accessibility, like for example, a lot of our clients are seniors, and when I'm there, when I'm going up some of them hills, I'm like, I don't know if everybody is ready for this. I mean, because some of them were extreme. Like what neighborhoods would you call, like out of the ones that you mentioned, which one would you say is the best in terms of walkability, transportation or convenience to things? Is there anyone that stands out?
And yeah, I mean, there is an area that is called La Frontera.
Mm-hmm.
That La Frontera is an area in between Envigado and Medellín.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very flat area, and it's in between Poblado and Envigado, and it gives you the opportunity to be walking and going through the different services like metro, like metro station, malls, and all of these kind of services.
La Frontera, that's LAFRONTERA.
Yeah, your Spanish is good.
So you mentioned, okay, thank you. I have to check that one out too. I know we'd be in different areas. That one hadn't come up on my radar. But let me ask you this. What about when you lease an apartment? How does the utilities and the cable situation generally work? Does it stay in the landlord's name, or how does that work?
I don't know why, but Colombians love to carry fridges and washers. We love to move them around all over the city, okay? So the properties in Colombia do not come with appliances, except those appliances that are hooked up at the kitchen. So the stove, the oven, and water heaters, they are all hooked up, so we don't move it, but everything that you just unplug and can be moved, as the washer, the freezer, the microwave, toaster oven, they are all gone and is not included in the price. If for any reason, and same with the shades and blackouts, they are not included usually in the price. If you want them to be included, it has to be submitted in the offer, right? So, okay, I make this offer for the property and I want you to include this. I'm not a big fan of including refrigerators and washers in the offers, because for any reason that I cannot tell you why, it could be harder to agree the price of the fridge than the apartment itself. The price of the apartment itself could be agreed in a couple of phone calls. Agreeing the price for an old fridge it could be a mess.
Yes.
So that's why my biggest advice is, I mean, unless you really want that fridge because it's custom made and or is just perfect fit in the kitchen, so we can go through it. But I do not recommend to go to that negotiation.
So, okay, so I understand that. But let me ask, but what I really wanted to know too was about like whose name is on the electric, the cable, the water. Who does the landlord keep his or her name on that, or do you need to take those things over as a tenant?
That is not an important thing in Colombia, or at least in Medellin or Antioquia State. And the utilities bill can be in anyone's name. The only thing that the company cares is that bill to get paid. Okay. So after 2 months, that bill doesn't get paid. They just cut off all the services. And remember that it's only one company. So if you don't pay the bill, you get out of electricity, gas, and water. They just shoot all the three services out, right? So then they charge a reconnection fee, which is probably $30 when you pay the bill, and they reconnect it in less than 24 hours. So the bill comes in, it's attached to the property. It doesn't need to come in the name of the person who's living in the apartment, right?
Because what I was thinking is that having utilities here in your name, coming to your name, is a good way to establish credit in Panama. So I was wondering if, if you were able to get the utilities in your name in Medellin, would that help to establish your credit there? But it's
Establish,
not done like
no,
that.
it's not that way. Establishing the credit here is starting to bind it. You have to be, or you should be a resident. So you buy your property or you get your residency chip in the way you want. There are like 18 different ways to get your residency chip in Colombia. So once you get your cédula in Medellin or in Colombia, then you can open a bank account. When you open a bank account, you start to move money on that bank account. So then you start to be interesting for the financial system. And after a couple of months, then you can have a cell phone plan, you can have your internet plan, and is how you start to build your credit in Colombia.
So the best case scenario would be to go for a residency. It would make
Yeah,
things, I mean, as far as the ease of doing other things, you have the residency allows you a foundation. Would you say that?
yeah, that allows you a foundation, and then you can stay here for as long as you wish. Otherwise, no matter if you have a property, you own a property, you will be coming into the country as a tourist. So you have to leave in 90 days. You have to leave every 90 days, or ask for an extension and go through all of this process, which is fine. But if you want to stay here free with no problems, then you buy the property and you get your residency chip. And after, depending on the amount of the investment, then you can request for your citizenship
Citizenship. Mm-hmm.
after 5 years, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That is the lawyer. This is a lawyer's field. But after 5 years, you can have your cédula, you can vote, you can be a Colombian.
Wow. So, doggone it, I was just going to ask you something and it slipped my mind. Oh, goodness. I wanted to ask you something about moving in and I just forgot it. So maybe it'll come back to me. In the meantime, would you like to just give us any parting advice as far as people that might be considering moving to Medellin with regard to real estate and then also how we can connect with you?
Yeah, first of all, again, I want to be very clear on this. If you haven't been in Medellin before, just rent first, make a life first, make friends, find the places you like in terms of restaurant, grocery stores, lifestyle, hobbies, and this kind of stuff. When you have those done or you feel comfortable in the city, then you can buy a property, right? This is a very easy city to understand. It's a very nice city to live. So that would be my very first advice. That's why you are making the tours, and I also can provide a very personalized tour, more according to each individual needs. And we can go to those areas specifically where after an interview, I can suggest like, okay, you tell me you like this, you want this, you don't want this, you have these disabilities, or you cannot walk. So I will show you the areas that might work for you if you want to start knowing the areas where to rent, which is another subject.
Yes. Okay, and before you tell us how to contact you, it came back to me. Thank God. See, I knew it would come back. Um, so just when you say, okay, you may have to put 10 months, you may have to pay 10 months in advance. For some people, depending on where you are in the world, you're thinking to myself, oh my gosh, that could be a lot of money. So, I mean, can you just give us an idea of, like, say, between a stratos between say 4 and 6, what a minimum and maximum rents, monthly rent you might see US
Uh,
dollars?
it will play in order to the age of the property, the size, and the location. But you can budget maybe it will play in big it will play with the age of the property, the size, and the location. So if you want to be in a very nice building, very good location, no matter the age that much, in a very good shape, you can be budget in between 1,000 to 2,000, more or less, for a long-term contract on furnished apartment. If you want to go for a furnished apartment, all the bills included, it could be double of it, okay? It could be double, so maybe, but if you go for a furnished apartment, all included, Airbnb, you don't have to put any deposit, right? So you can go with no deposit. That's why it is more expensive, because the risk is higher against if you compare for a long-term contract, which the risk is less because it's insurance. So it's a financial game here. If you have more risk, you expect more return of the investment, right? So that's why. But to make long story short, for long term unfurnished property, you can budget $1,000, $2,000 a month.
Okay, well, that must be some very nice. There must be some very nice units. I wasn't
Yeah,
expecting you to say that much.
yeah, very nice. There are units for maybe 800, 900, very nice too, very local areas, safe. Yeah, there is one of a kind, and I'm talking about Poblado, Laureles, 120 square meters and full amenities building, right?
Mhm. And when you say those amounts, would you say a minimum of 2 bedrooms? Would that be
These are three bedrooms, which is the
based
more
on three
common layout.
bedrooms?
Three
Okay, based
bedroom,
on,
two bedrooms.
okay, so you're talking about a pretty generous size apartments.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
If you go for 80 square meters, which is 800 square foot
Hmm.
in Envigado, 100% local community, you can spend $800 a month, $700 a month in a brand new building, but smaller. And I know expats like larger apartments rather than smaller. That's why I'm going through this price point.
Hmm. Okay. And some of them, now, one of the things that is becoming more and more common with our current constituency, and I believe that, it may change somewhat as we move into, more into the Medellín, Colombia territory. Panama is a very, very good place for retirees. And so a majority of the people who come through our tours, are at retirement age or a little bit older. So it may start to fluctuate some. I can also see, and sometimes with the older people, we're starting to want smaller. So that's an option. Some of them want smaller. I think a lot of times they come in and they say, well, I want to have a place for the grands when they come and stay. And it's always like they want to have these extra rooms for that time when people come to visit. And then after you see them for about a year, they'll be like, I'm not going to renew this lease because no one has come. Or, I've only had out of town guests 3 times in a year, and so I think we could do some different things, even in our home. In my home, I have 3 bedrooms. So we have one guest room, and I made this second guest room an office, and the couch that it pulls out to a bed. So not to waste that whole space on a bedroom that never gets used. So I think that when it comes to the people that come on the tours, it's not a monolith. So we show them some like really, larger spaces, but they like smaller spaces too. So I think they'll enjoy that. But I just think that I just want to thank you for being with me today. And I just can't tell you how excited I am, Juan. I'm excited that I found you. And I have to give a shout out to my man Kent because he introduced us, ran into Kent Davis on the beach. And he was like, girl, what you doing? He's so hilarious. And then when I told him that we had expanded, he introduced me to you. And I'm so happy that he did. I'm so impressed with your knowledge and your experience. And I feel 100% comfortable sharing you with our guests. And I'm so excited that I'm learning so much. You know, I've gotten here. I've been, you know, we invested in Panama 12 years ago. I've been here pretty much full time for the last 4 years. Been doing the tours for 4 years, just hit 4 years. And, you know, for me to be learning so much about another, you know, international space is exciting. And so I need the best people around me. And I have to learn some things more than once. It's just so much to learn at one time. So I appreciate you sharing with us today. And just in parting, just let us know where to find you on social media and how to get in touch if they have additional questions.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so proud for helping you and your community to get into this exciting city. This is a very nice city to move into. And I'm so proud to be your first contact here. You can contact me at www.juancamilovillegas.com. I know it's a little bit long,
Go
but
ahead.
I guess you can find it in the
See,
comments
see.
and we can put there my email. And yeah, I would be happy to answer any question, any email, any WhatsApp. I'm almost 24 hours on top of this. And obviously looking forward to see you in August. Is this right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I am excited. So, you
Very
know, we'll be
exciting.
talking more between then and now, but I'm so excited.
And please say hi to Ken Davis in Panama, who's your
I
guy
will.
there.
I will. I will tell him he's gonna. I sent our picture over when we first met in Poblado, which we'll be staying in Poblado, guys. So you're gonna like that. So listen, I'm gonna bid you a fair day, no, an excellent day, and I'm gonna talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Very nice to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
And there you have it. Listen, I am so excited. Just couldn't be more excited to bring these amazing professionals to you. It's just such a well-rounded, cultured, and informational tour that we have. I'm just so excited. And Juan is bringing a lot to the table, as you can see. If you have any questions, you can reach him at your at the information that he's given, and we'll have it on the end of the video in addition as well. For us, let's see what's going on. What we got happening out here in these Panama streets. We just finished up our 4 year anniversary, baby. Oh my gosh. If you all have not seen the footage from us live from Emotions Theater on May 18th for our 4 year tour anniversary and my 61st birthday, y'all have missed it. Okay. I mean, it was just off the charts, guys. So awesome. Want to remind you of our regular events. You know, you can follow us on blackexpatsinpanama.net. We try to keep that very updated and with all of the information for people that are not on social media, because I totally get it, okay? So we have it both. We kind of try to keep our social media and our website locked and loaded so you can see everything that's going on. We are just about sold out for July tour in July 1st. So if you want to get in, don't forget we have our Cultural Caribbean Day to Cologne. So when you look at that, it's usually the third of the month. We'll have one coming up June 3rd, July 3rd, August 3rd, September 3rd, and final one is December 3rd. We're working on some new stuff for you guys here in Panama that we will be releasing shortly. We still have space available, a few spaces available on our April 2026 tour to Brazil. We have space available on our Sisters in Panama 6th annual retreat. We Deserve It is the theme, and that's January 16th through the 21st, I believe. It's a great time because it's around the Martin Luther King holiday. You don't have to take as much time off, if you're still working and things like that. We have third Wednesday is Welcome Wednesday at Emotions Dinner Theater. It starts at 6. Second Wednesday is our Black Expats in Panama B2B, the Business to Business Network. It's at Global Hotel. It starts at 6:30. Don't forget, fourth Sunday is Cafe and Conversation. Come on out, y'all. Let's just let our inhibitions down and try to speak a little Spanish. Very friendly, very low key, very informal. We have brunch and we just practice speaking a little bit. You have a little cheat sheet. We talk about the things that concern us, as far as where we are in our process of learning Spanish. But I really want to encourage this because it is so important that we at least try to pick up the Spanish because it will help us to integrate into the community. Don't forget, every Saturday now, the Farmers Market, Caribbean Market at Soho Mall. It goes all day from like 9 to 8. The farmers market is from like 9 to 4. And then at 4, from 4 to 8, it's like the Caribbean market kicks in. And it's all kind of activities. We get to support the culture. Black Expats in Panama is so proud to be a collaborator on that event, and it's going to be every single Saturday. So please come out and support that. And we'll put some information and contact information. It's a great opportunity for us, the Black Expats in Panama. You can support other businesses, integrate with the community, showcase your businesses, your talents. We can you can be considered for entertainment. I mean, it's the opportunities for us are just amazing, and so that's why Black Expats in Panama is like heavily involved. So, with that said, this is Charlotte Van Horn, Black Expat Journey podcast, and I'm going to let y'all go. Thanks a lot to my main man, Daryl Spears, for the production of Black Expat Journey podcast. And with that said, find us everywhere, Black Expats in Panama. And I love you. I love you. I love you, honey. And there's just nothing, absolutely nothing you can do about it. This is your girl, Charlotte Van Horn, Black Expats in Panama, signing off for now. Peace, y'all.